Yours. Hit that one more time. I am the number one determinant of the success or failure. Here we go. Of my students. Hey, y'all, you have a strong summer. Kick some butt next year. Thank you. Appreciate you. That's the mindset. That's the attitude. Love you guys.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let me see who we got here this morning. Hit that share button as you come in. We got my man Ricardo Giannis in the building out of Houston. We got John Few, Marsha Poe, Demetrius Scott, my brother, Rodney Richardson, Principal Dot McKeever, Jeter's in the building. Portia Jigbo is in the building. Where we at? This thing just jumped on me, y'all. We had a big rush of folks jumped on. Davis Emerson Middle School is in the building. I don't know what we got. The whole school here. We got Michael Benton. Good to see you, Michael. You know, I meant to bring you to say something when you were on the other platform, but you know, we got time to do that. Vanessa Deskin is in the building, and I should say Principal Michael Benton is in the building. Y'all hear that? Michael Benton been with us since he was teacher Michael Benton. Then he became assistant principal Michael Benton, and now he's principal. That's all since we've been on this platform for a little over 2 years now. Adrian Young is in the building. Tony McClenny, Mary Felton, Crystal A. Williams is in the building. Good to see you, Crystal. We got Mark Merrill, John Herricks, my man John is in the building. Crystal Nolan, Brandon, Maria Lewis, Lysandra Brackens, Nicolette Lesniak is in the building. Who we got? This thing just jumped on me, y'all. We got Roz McKenzie in the building. Nyerka Coy Bush, Byrianne Collins is in the building. James Wilburn. Where we at? Takesha High is in the building. Hit the share button, hit the retweet button. Let them know. Let them know we are here, man. Bobby Morgan, Liberation Lab is in the building. Kimberly Davis is in the building. Again, hit that retweet button, hit that share button. Let them know. Hit up them Facebook groups, y'all. Let them know, particularly the leadership ones. Let them know we're here. We're here in week 115 in the building. It's just about that time, too. We got Arlene Council. My man Josh Tovar is in the building. MPA Jaguars, what he uses, he's here. And as he always says, make sure you check out video number 70. That's Josh. That's my man. Josh, you know, I had to get me a new one, man. I had to get a new one, right? So we good. I hope it's clean. It looks clean. I appreciate that, Mark. Look here, y'all. It's 11:02. I got big time guests on today, and we got a lot to talk about. So let me say to you formally now, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 115 of the virtual AP Leadership Academy. And as I always say every Saturday, I don't know about you. I don't know, but I think I know because you're here. But if I could speak for me, I'm not bringing the flames yet because, you know, we dealing with stuff here, but I'm going to let you know I am on fire. I'm blazing, but I just will not express it the way I normally do. For those of you that have been rocking with me for over the past 2-3 weeks now, you know my brother-in-law made his transition the other day, and the funeral was yesterday. The homegoing service was yesterday, and he was laid to rest, and I'm just not ready to scream in my house. I see you there, Principal Akbar Cook. Good to see you, OSG, in the building. I'm just not ready to scream in my house just yet. So I can't give you that fire the way I normally do. Some of y'all put them fire emojis in the chat, and that will represent me letting you know how I feel, because I am on fire, right? But I'm just not ready to be screaming just yet. Folks, let me go through my quick commentary I used to call it my motivational message, but I call it my commentary now. I kind of made a transition there. And the topic, the title, real quick, as a, you know, today is leading while black Saturday. So we call it Perspectives on Leading While Black. And I bring in authors of this book, Fighting the Good Fight. So we'll talk about them in a little while. Narratives of the African-American principalship. And although it is, I see you, Dennis McKeezy. Good to see you, sir. We got to connect at some point, man. We got to connect. Been a decade or so, right? But I'll say this to you. You know, even though I call the second Saturday Leading While Black, we still relevant to everybody, because everybody needs to hear these perspectives. If you're working in a building with black folks, then you need to hear these perspectives of black folks, right? So I don't want anyone that's not black to feel that these second Saturdays are not for you. And that's not going to be every second Saturday. It's most second Saturdays. Like the next second Saturday is not a Leading While Black, but the one following in September will be. So with that, I'm saying this. Here's my title real quick. Your responsibility and obligation as a leader is ancestral deep. Let me say that to you again. Your responsibility, your obligation as a leader is ancestral deep. What am I saying? I'm going to say it to you like this here. When I became a teacher in Brooklyn, New York City, yes, sir, Dennis, we got to do that soon, man. We got to do it. When I became a teacher in Brooklyn, New York City, and then 10 years later, a principal in East Orange, New Jersey, never, I want you to hear me, never, ever did I look at this role as my job, my career, my profession, my work. It was none of that. None of it. What it was my responsibility. It was my duty. It was my obligation. And it was ancestral deep. See, it wasn't just about now, like, okay, I got a nice job, I'm a leader, I got certain prestige and status, nice salary. No, that stuff was all secondary, if not tertiary. What mattered was the fact that I'm in a position, in a historical context, to take children, and in this regard, black children, because that's who was assigned to me, the school was all black, to take black children to heights that maybe they never even imagined, that maybe even their families never imagined that they could ascend to. So I'm saying, the leader out there on this Leading While Black Saturday morning, you got to understand, this ain't just no job. This not just a career. I mean, me coming on here for 115 weeks and not being paid a penny. And I don't want one, because some of y'all be out trying to get the cash out so you can send me money. I don't want it. But I'm saying that by me doing this, it takes a week to put these notes together. These things are like 7-8 pages. But I understand my obligation. So I'm saying to you again, your responsibility and your obligation is ancestral deep, right? So let that be my commentary this morning. Real quick, let me go through these announcements. All to the first timers out there, if you've never been on this platform before, welcome to you. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad you're here. So welcome to the Virtual AP Leadership Academy, week number 115. You may be wondering about my attire. Since week one, all I wear is Negro League jerseys, right? That's a Negro League baseball jerseys. That's all I wear, right? So I'm wearing an alternate jersey to the Baltimore Black Sox. This is not the actual jersey. This is an alternate, but that's what I wear. It's just part of the brand of this platform. So in what I'm wearing history. For those, it could be someone on here that doesn't know, some of the greatest baseball players that ever graced a stadium played in these Negro Leagues. But because they were born black, they couldn't play in the major leagues, despite the fact that a Josh Gibson hit 800 home runs. Babe Ruth couldn't tie his shoes. 800 home runs. Babe Ruth had 714, right? But because they were born black, they couldn't play in the majors. A Satchel Paige, who pitching for the Kansas City Monarchs, among other teams he played, well, primarily Kansas City. But here's a Satchel Paige that told the outfield and the infielders, y'all go sit down. I don't need y'all. Ain't nobody hitting no ball. I'm going to strike out everybody. They go on and sit down in the dugout, and he proceeds to strike out everybody. That's the kind of talent that rock these jerseys, man. So I wear these with pride. Like when I put them on Saturday morning, I feel like Superman, right? Like I could leap tall buildings in a single bound, right? So that's what that's about. So welcome to the first timers. Hey, y'all, it's here. July 12 and 13 this week, man. I'm going to be in Charlotte for 2 days. The School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele, man. This is not one of them conferences where they invite me out. This is where I'm inviting you to come get down with me, right? So this is July 12, July 13. We going 9 to 4, right? Charlotte, North Carolina. Whole lot of people already registered, but hey, it could be some ones on here that didn't even know about it. Go to principalkafele.com. Again, principalkafele.com. Let me put this stuff up here for you. And right on the bottom of the screen, you'll see the website. Scroll down to where it says my summer conferences, right? And just click that link, register, get that plane ticket, get that room, and be down there in Charlotte with me on July 12 and 13. And then while you're at it, plan to get with me on next Sunday at the NAESP, National Association of Elementary Schools Principals Conference. I'll be there on Sunday. I'm doing 8 o'clock and a 9:30. So get with me there and then come on down to Dallas, and I'll be the closing keynoter for the Making Schools at Work conference. That's the Southern Regional Educational Board. Come on to Dallas and join me there. All those links are on my page at principalkafele.com. We're doing book signings, everything. Matter of fact, you come to the Institute this week, we giving everybody a free copy of the Equity and Social Justice Education 50, right? You get this, come with the package, man. So just come on down with us and you get a free copy of this, right? So and then a lot of folks keep asking me, when you gonna be speaking in my area? Just go to my website and look at it's not my schedule, it's just the summer conferences that are open to the public, right? My schedule ain't relevant to you if it's in a school or a district, because it's only for them, right? But the public conferences, I want you to join me. Congrats to all the people that just landed new positions. Like, you know, my man Michael Benton got that new position. So congrats to him and so many others out there. If you're on here, let us know you just got hired recently so we could clap you up. Last thing, and then I'm getting ready to go to my guests. You know, I always show y'all these, man, because these coincide with this academy. So if you don't have my book, The Assistant Principal 50, just go to Amazon, go get a second device and just get it right now, right? So that the assistant principal, I'm reversed. The assistant principal 50 and the aspiring principal 50, they go hand in glove. As a matter of fact, since I'm at it, man, you may as well get the principal 50 while you at it. So get that as well. And let's give you the last one, and then I'm going to finish this self-promotion. Is my school a better school because I lead it? If you don't have that, so these four, man, people ask me all the time, what should I read? Read my joints. That's what you should read, right? So just get your hands on those. And if someone said, man, you went so quick, I didn't get it down, go to Amazon and type in my name. Just put Baruti Kafele. And every book I wrote, there's about 12 of them. They'll show up on the screen, right? So just do that. I think I'm done. Hit that share button, y'all. Hit that retweet button. I got some superstars in the wings, man. We getting ready to get down on this conversation. Let me get them on up here. We got my guests, man. They principals, man. I got Dr. Anissa Reilly. I got to look at my phonetics here. We got Dr. Elaine McNeil-Girmai in the building. And let me read their bios real quick before I ask them anything. First, I'm gonna read Dr. Elaine McNeil-Girmai. She's an elementary principal in Massachusetts. She holds a BA from Boston College in English and Sociology with a minor in Black Studies, MED, where am I, from UMass, and an EDD from Loyola Marymount University in Educational Leadership for Social Justice. That's big time. Her dissertation was the catalyst for her focus on teachers' cultural competence and family engagement. She has worked in and around Boston, Los Angeles, and Brooklyn in public charter and traditional schools, as well as in higher education over the last 20 years. Doc, when I said I started in Brooklyn, I was in Crown Heights, right where you were. She has previously presented at AERA, the Coalition of Essential Schools, and the American Anthropological Association, and has been awarded the Eta Phi chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated Carter G. Woodson STEAM Award winner in 2019, in addition to serving on nonprofit boards focused on expanding opportunities for students, educators, and families. That's a whole lot of stuff there, y'all. Let me go right to Dr. Anissa Reilly. She's been in education for over 30 years. For just under the last 15, she's been the principal of an elementary school in a large urban school district. She received her undergraduate degree from Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, her master's degree from Bank Street College of Education, and her doctorate from the Sage Colleges of Albany. She is the president and owner of Giant Step 6 LLC. Again, Giant Step 6 LLC. You can put giantstep6.com. It's com, right? And you can check that out now if you want. Her primary goal and passion as the senior consultant is to develop national and global leaders so they can effectively lead their prospective organizations. She is the loving wife of Gordon Reilly Jr. and the mother of 4 amazing young people. She received proclamations from the New York State Senator Jose Serrano and New York City Councilwoman Vanessa Gibson for her assistance with improving the lives of the people in her community. The first book in her leadership series, 5 Buckets of Leadership, Speaking in the Moment, is soon to be released on Amazon. Again, 5 Buckets of Leadership, Speaking in the Moment, is soon to be released on Amazon. The date for the release of her children's book series about an African-American female educational superhero named Dr. Action is soon to be scheduled. For more information, visit the website, again, Giant Step 6 LLC.com. Dr. Reilly is also the host of Ask Dr. Reilly, which can be seen on YouTube, and it's a 20 to 30 minutes one-on-one session with young and mature women and sometimes men, where the discussion is around the traumatic issues that are faced in the inner cities. And I watched some of those when I was preparing. It's good stuff, y'all. This living room like discussion focuses on abuse, sexual issues like rape, domestic violence, and sexuality that impact the community. I got a dog sitting like right under me, y'all. So when you see me acting crazy with my hands, I'm trying to get him away. He got his head in the screen last week, right? So with that, I present to all and introduce to others Dr. McNeil-Girmai and Dr. Reilly. Good to see y'all. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Thank you for having us.
How y'all feeling today?
Great.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having us on today.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I came up with this whole concept, and I'm glad you're here. You know, I want to ask you we got a lot to talk about. Hey, y'all, we're gonna be on here for a while, so block out some time with me. Give me about 90 minutes, 2 hours, I don't know, but just hit that share button, hit that retweet button, let them know I've gotten through my announcements. We in the meat now, right? So, you know, to both of you, and I'll go one at a time. As you consider all the challenges over the past year, man, I know what it's been. Just, you know, I'm not on those front lines with you, but I know you are, and I talk to folks like you who are on them, and it was not easy. So when you consider all those challenges from over the past year, or maybe even 2 years, we might add, talk to us, because someone needs to hear this. Talk to us, and I'm going to start with Dr. McNeil. Tell us about a win that you had this year that could resonate with someone else who's watching this morning. What was one of your wins in this sea of madness that we had to experience through a pandemic?
It has been such a crazy few years. I think the win, one of the wins we had on the last few days was the relationships that had been built between students and teachers. And, my school was, we pretty much stayed in school. We closed initially, but we came back open the first day of the 2021 school year. And we were in a hybrid format, but we had about half of our school at one point remote and half in person. And so this past school year was our first opportunity to all be back together after really being two separate communities for an entire year. And to see how everybody came back together, really all of the initiatives the previous year were just to create a strong community and maintain the community and keep everybody feeling connected. And the last day of school, seeing literal tears from the teachers and the students as they walked out the doors, and a feeling of we made it through this tough time, but also, actual sadness that they were leaving these teachers that they had built such a special bond with. I actually had covered a class the week before, and it happened to be that teacher's last day. And when she shared it with the students, it was like a domino effect of tears. I've never seen anything like it. And then she had to leave a few minutes early and left me with all of them. And, just the entire class was so emotional. So I would just say everybody was looking for those connections after being apart. And I think those wins were really about seeing those come together.
Good stuff. And I'm hearing principal leadership and throughout everything that you said. And as we know, leadership matters. Dr. Reilly, jump in here. What's one of those wins that you had, or the biggest win during this tumultuous last year?
So I think it can be said from what we do know that relationships can be tested when it's trial and adversity, right? And that's when you know how strong a relationship is or how strong the bond is. And these last 2 years for me and my staff has really been tested through it. And we realized that we were much more than a family. We realized that we relied on each other much more. And even as the mandates and the compliances and the bureaucracy kept changing from day to day based on new information, our bond kept getting stronger and stronger and tighter, which allowed us to receive the students who came in with the trauma, the families that came in with the trauma, because we knew that we could rely on one another even as we were going through our own personal traumas, right? And so it just showed us that we are family and we got this. And our resilience came straight to the forefront to the point where, regardless of what's happened in our community, because our school is in a really tough community and we're plagued by a lot of adversity, we can do this for kids. And we were all on the same front, fighting for our children as we fought for ourselves. So that was our biggest win.
Wow, that's again what I'm hearing over everything. I'm hearing principal leadership. And, those of you, if there's any newbies on, and I know the folks associated with the two of you, there could be some folks who were not familiar with the platform, but it's all about professional learning on these Saturday mornings. And as I say to anybody, principal leadership is everything. And you show me a high performing school with ineffective, weak leadership. I'll show you a school that may be high performing, but it is not optimally performing, right? Leadership matters. Dr. McNeil, I'm gonna stay with you on this next question. You minored in Black Studies, and that really stood out for me as I read your bio during the week. Last week was 4th of July weekend, And during my commentary that I do before the actual presentation, I do a solo on every first Saturday. I don't bring on guests, but I always do a commentary, which I used to call a motivational message. And last week's commentary was rooted in Frederick Douglass' speech of July 5, 1852. What to the slave is the 4th of July. And I normally my commentary is 5 minutes, but I couldn't leave it alone within the 5 minutes. And it took, I went through it for 25 minutes and then edited the video so that it can be a separate standalone. But here's the thing. The reason I did that is because I got a diverse audience that watches this platform. And the 4th of July means different things to different people. I have zero pride in the 4th of July. In fact, it's one of my low points of the year during that time, because I know that with given the 4th of July, without me doing the whole presentation again, we're talking about 87 more years before Black folks were emancipated, right? Were given their freedom. So I can't celebrate that. So my question to you then is not a 4th of July question, but my question is, what was your motivation, Doc, in minoring in Black studies? What drove that decision?
Well, you know, I consider myself really fortunate that the school that I've been principal at is actually the elementary school I attended. And that school has had a big change demographically over time. But when I attended as a child, it was predominantly white. And, you know, going through, I'm the youngest of three. And you know, even my older siblings, my older sister is 10 years older than me. And all of our experience were so vastly different in time. But what was consistent was being minoritized and not feeling a connection to a lot of other students, certainly not faculty. And so, you know, when I got to higher education and had the opportunity to learn from these passionate educators, many of whom were African-American individuals of color, it was just fascinating. And, you know, I've always had a love for literature, and a lot of the work was delving into literature. And, you know, when you mentioned Frederick Douglass, it made me think of a quote that I really liked from him recently. I kind of got familiar with it by a book of a similar name, Not Light, but Fire. But the quote is, "It is not light that we need, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake." And, you know, that's really what we need in education right now. We need, you know, this big catalyst for change. And I think you can't make any change unless you understand the history and all the things we've gone through. My personal, you know, cultural connection is both of my parents immigrated from Jamaica. So, you know, I have a different experience in a lot of ways, and really wanting to understand the experience here in this country as well.
I want to stay with you. It's actually a three-parter, and I love what you said. I love that quote from Frederick Douglass. That's not a common quote that we hear from him. Talk to us then about the benefits of a principal, a school principal, being conversant in Black studies, particularly within the area of African American history.
Well, I think, you know, I mean, thinking about where we just came from in the pandemic, I think it was incredibly important. Again, you know, demographically, my school differs from most of the schools in the community. We have a much higher non-white population. And the decision for so many families to stay remote, and the fears that so many families had about coming to school, were so clearly rooted in history and, you know, what has happened to us for years and years and years, and real fears. And so I think I approached all of my decisions, which were probably much more restrictive than a lot of other individuals, from that standpoint of, I need to create a culture and a setting that people can feel that their fears are validated, that their history is validated, and create a sense of calm and structure for them. So I think, you know, most recently in that, but then I think also just day to day, and thinking about the academics of students and making sure that all communities and all cultures are represented represented in, the curriculum that we're sharing, the guests we're bringing in to speak to the students, that they are seeing, representation.
Good stuff. And I think the most important, this was a three-parter, the most important, particularly for folks in certain states in the country, given everything you just said, what might be the critical race theory challenges and implications for a principal who wants, in this case, since I got a Black focus on Saturday, who wants that information out there? Because see, let me say this, and I should say, Dr. Reilly, you feel free to jump in on any of these, and vice versa when I ask Dr. Reilly questions. That's not an problem at all. When when I did the commentary last week about Frederick Douglass, I literally watched that portion of the video because I don't usually watch these over and over, right? But that one, that 25 minutes, I must have watched that at least 7 times, right? I just kept just studying myself in terms of what I said and asking myself, did I say what I really wanted to say? But I'm saying to you that what I said, if a teacher in certain states in the country who where the critical race theory hysteria exists, if they took that into a classroom the next day, or a leader took it into the school the next day, there could be consequences for that person, right? Although I said nothing wrong or inappropriate, I simply talked about American history. I don't have to call it Black history. I talked about American history. So I'm saying to you, given everything, all the responses you just gave me, what might be some of those CRT challenges and or implications?
Well, I mean, honestly, you've already kind of nailed the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is the expectation that there's more to the work than there is. As I said, a lot of things are just really about having representation, having everybody's stories told, and that constantly being challenged prevents the comfort level and the freedom to do that. And so then we're kind of back in the place where we're having the same narratives always shared, the same speakers always coming in, the same books always being read. So, it's really just about the opportunity to open things up and make sure all the voices and experiences are heard. And that is definitely, a concern. I think the vast majority of people are not thinking about CRT. They're really just trying to represent. And that's, being mitigated.
Yeah.
Can I add?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I recently was on a talk show called The Morning Emails from Lays Elliott, who's part of OSG, and we were having this discussion when CRT became like this big national awareness. And one of the things that I said on his show was that the word race in that phrase, critical race theory, I believe is what is the trigger word, right? Because it's not really about that. It's about being critical thinkers around what actually is happening. And so, Warren Bennett talks about mastering the context, and Warren Bennett talks about a leader understanding how to move in turbulent times. But we call it, knowing how to play chess, right? From the hood, we say you gotta play chess. You ain't playing checkers, you playing chess, master the game.
Right.
And so if you understand the cards that are being dealt, if you understand the parameters, then how do you get students to be critical thinkers, to be examiners, to be synthesizers, to be analyzers? And if you are curating a school that is promoting those type of attributes and characteristics, then there would be no need to have a critical race theory in theory, but they would already be able to come to the work and analyze. When we look at Goldie Muhammad's work, Cultivating Genius, one of the things she talks about, one of the pursuits she talks about is skill and intellect, right? And in that, it's really examining the holes that are there or questioning what part of the information that is left out. That's what lawyers do. That's what great debaters do. And so if we are cultivating those skills in our students, then there would be no need for an actual critical race theory. It would naturally come about in conversation and from their own questioning and wondering. So that's what I have to offer. So if they don't want us to say critical race theory, fine, but we're going to give them the tools for them to be critical thinkers.
I love it. So in other words, what I'm hearing you say, it's just organic.
Yes.
We're just giving the truth. So the quick example that just came to my mind based on what you just said. So I'm in my little makeshift studio, right? I had to the pandemic comes, so I got to figure out, well, how am I going to do this? I don't have space, so I'm in the middle of the living room, dining room, right? So, but I'm well lit. See, I got these lights around me. So given what you said, Dr. Reilly, we go to school as students, you and I, and someone not only teaches us, but indoctrinates us with, when we say lights, Thomas Edison. But then we come across a teacher such as a Dr. McNeil-Girmai or a Dr. Reilly or Principal Kafele who says, wait a minute, there's a Lewis Latimer that Thomas Edison hired and leaned on, who said that ineffective bulb just needs a carbon thread filament. So you and I have never seen an Edison bulb, except if we went to a museum. We use Lewis Latimer bulbs, but that's not critical race theory. That's just, as you just said, just let's tell the story. It's just truth. So now I'm going off script with both of you now. So now here we are. I just brought Lewis Latimer into the conversation, and I'm talking to two principals with a bunch of leaders, school leaders, principals, assistant principals, aspiring principals, and assistant principals, and central office, and whoever's out there watching or who will see the video. So now, what is the implication in the diverse school? I'm throwing this at y'all. I'm gonna go to Dr. Reilly first. What is the implication when I'm not in a school that's all Black, but I'm in a school that's diverse in terms of race, culture, ethnicity, and I start talking Lewis Latimer, and thereby defy everything I thought I knew? What are the implications for you when you bring that to the school, which we know is historically correct?
Well, first you have to ask yourself, what does it mean to be a leader, right? When you think about Theodore Roosevelt's quote, "Man in the arena," you got to put yourself out there, right? And understand that some Maverick attributes are necessary if you're going to develop children in the way we say that we want our children to be able to lead. And when we talk about American history, and if we unpack the word American, then what does American really mean? So you begin to unpack that. And in that word American, you're going to find the diverse cultures as already,
Yeah.
right? So all you're doing is putting the information there as it is without your own biases or judgment on it. Just lay it out there and then have them analyze it. Isn't that what we want kids to do?
That's right.
Analyze the information, create new knowledge based on the information, right? And if you know that in your district or in your city or in your state, that if you are using these words that could potentially put you in harm's way, then you got to be smart about it, because our students, our babies, our children, whether they're white, Black, brown, whatever color, need to be able to have this information so that they can create a new future for themselves. So we don't want all of us to be kicked out or blackballed or misaligned. So we got to be smart about how we do that, but don't give up, because they're what do they say? If there is no way, make one.
Yeah, that's right.
Find it. Find
Yeah.
the way.
And somebody, let me show you this. Somebody caught this, because this you hit me when you said that, but I see I wasn't the only one, right? Yeah, I gotta write that one down too. Maverick attributes.
Yes,
Right?
Maverick attributes.
Yeah. Did you want to jump in here, Elaine?
Sure. I just wanted to add, and I'm sorry, I'm going to miss the author's name, but there's a title that I just picked up called Textured Teaching. And when you said that, it just made me think about that. And I can't even say this is entirely what the book is about, but when I think about, there are so many different layers to history, and they are very much interwoven. And so I think it's exactly what you said. It's about layering them all together, teaching those critical things, and teaching about perspective taking. And I think that those pieces together will help you be able to build in a lot of other stories and narratives. And again, if the kids have those critical thinking skills, if they can take perspectives, they're going to be able to make meaning out of that.
There you go. There you go. Hey, Dr. Reilly, let's talk about some stuff here. You know, you the president and owner of Giant Step 6 LLC.
Yes,
And
sir.
and your primary goal, this caught my attention in a big way. Your primary goal and passion as the senior consultant is to develop national and global leaders so they can effectively lead their prospective organizations, right? So
Yes.
you've got this vision of developing leaders around the globe.
Yes.
So I got this two-part question for you. What is it about your experience? Because I know you've been doing this for a long time. What is
Yes.
this? What is it about your experience that makes you suited for this sort of work? And why is this work important to you?
Okay. So I've been doing the work for 20 years, getting paid to do work for 20 years. But we all know we have a call, and some people know they were born to sing, they were born to play sports. I've realized that I've been born to lead and develop leaders. Like I just have this gifting where I can see it and pull it out and develop particularly leaders. And in my role as a leader, what I have found that there is trauma that comes with leadership. There's things that they don't tell you that happens when you become a leader. They don't tell you that you are a target of everybody's frustrations. You can be a recipient of everybody's pain, and you are expected to show up and smile and keep leading even when you are going through your own stuff, right? And sometimes that unknowingness leads you to always want to do because you can't find this balance. My good friend Jamila Hudkurt wrote a book called Leading with Balance because we have to understand how to do that. So shout out her, go get that book. But in that, the trauma that we experience as leaders is what will stop us from doing great jobs or will jade us or will not allow us to lead properly. So we need someone who not only has experienced the trauma and been successful, but can sit with you in the trenches, sit with you in the abyss, sit with you in the depression and say, come on out. That's what was done for me by my mentor, Dennis McKeezy from OSG. He found me in this depression. I was professionally depressed. I was still on the wheel going, but I was professionally depressed. Now, he's one person. I didn't find anybody else who had that skill set to help me get out. But he's one person. How many more leaders
Yeah.
are depressed but still leading and just need someone that they can trust? And so
Yeah.
that's why it's personal to me. That's why it's my calling. That's why I'm making this transition to go out and help because, like the quote you saying, leading while bleeding. Yeah, I'm gonna be your triage and I'm gonna be your operating room and I'm gonna make sure that you can go out and continue to help our babies or whatever organization that you're leading.
That's powerful. Before I go to the second part of this question, again, folks, Giant Steps, that's Giant Steps, singular, 6llc.com. I mean, you think about having that person, because see, there's some, Doc, there's a lot of aspiring people that watch this, whether it be live or the videos later, and folks don't know what they're getting themselves into.
No, they don't.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is, and all of our experiences are different, but it's not like it's less easy, right?
Yeah.
It's folks don't know, and you can be so gun ho. I'm pumped, I'm amped, I'm excited, I can't wait. You position yourself with the right people to open the door for you. You
Yep.
get in, and then you find out, bam,
Bam.
this ain't what you thought it was. And imagine you have somebody who understands that. Not
Yeah.
the scholar at the university that never did this before,
Not
but the
in
one who
theory.
walked in these shoes. And for you, I'm getting way ahead of myself. You became a principal in your early 30s,
Yes.
right? So someone who's been doing this work for a while,
Yes.
it understands that.
20
So
years.
yeah. So let me go to this second part of the question. Are there any challenges that you perceive that would be endemic to a Black woman in your role?
Oh, yes. So, first of all, women in general already have a stigma, right? Women in general. So, we hear what society says that, men can do this, but women do it, then, you get paid less, or you have to always, put your best foot forward. But then you add the layer of Black on top of it. And then the same thing that my white counterpart or my non-white or my Asian counterpart says, I say it, and I'm militant, I'm revolutionary, I'm perpetuating the angry Black woman syndrome. I am too sensitive, or I'm not aggressive enough, or all of these conversations. I mean, for me, I just got comfortable with being in my Bronx accent. I'm New York Bronx all day, every day, all day. That's who I am. And just recently, I want to say within the last maybe 5 years or so, that I've gotten really comfortable with showing up as my true authentic self. And if my Bronx accent comes out, which I'm sure you're probably hearing it now,
It's
that
loud and
doesn't take
clear.
away that doesn't take away from how intelligent and how dope I am.
There you go.
And I know how when I need to tone it down a little bit, but I'm toning it down because I choose to, not because the atmosphere is making me, or I feel that the atmosphere is making me do that. Um, and so with those challenges, being a Black woman, be making sure you want to show up as your authentic self, not feeling like you have to code switch every time you turn around,
Yeah.
but being comfortable with the fact that you are intelligent and you are smart and you are worthy is all right by me. And that's what I've gotten used to. And that's what I want to help other leaders do as well.
You said a lot there, and one of the things I want to stay there with you for a minute. You said how dope I am,
Yes.
right? See, and matter of fact, somebody I mean, we don't know who watches these. It could be somebody from some deep in the heart of Kansas somewhere that or Montana or Wyoming, and they don't know what you just said.
Okay.
Give them that breakdown when you said
Yeah.
how dope I am.
So my cultural euphemism, how dope I am, means that I am extremely intelligent. And when I show up in your space, you're not going to leave the way that you came, because what I have to offer is not only going to impact you for the moment, but beyond the moment, so that you can continue to show up as your best self. Being dope means that when you read my books, when you hear my podcasts, when you take my information, you are going to not only be better, but you're going to be the best. And when I leave you, you're going to say, she must come back because she has created a better me. So I leave you in a better state than you were when you first came to me.
So as I hold up the most potent tool that I have in education, right? Not some book, not some this, not some that. The mirror. This is the most potent tool that I've ever possessed as an educator. I want you to talk to somebody out there on the call right now, and I want you to tell them, how do I look in my mirror and see dopeness looking back at me? Because I'm gonna tell you something, Doc. You know it. The two of you know it. That this work called principal leadership can force your dopeness to diminish in terms of how you see yourself. Forget about how you're being perceived, how you see yourself. Talk to somebody out there who got their butt kicked this past year and their dopeness is diminished in their eyes. How do I restore it when I look into my mirror?
So you want to go first, Dr. Gamar?
No, I want to stay with you. I want to
Oh,
stay with
okay.
you, Dr. Reilly.
So the first thing is, you may not even be able to hold up the mirror. It is important that you have a mentor. That's why I shout out my mentor, Dr. McKeezy, Dennis McKeezy, Dr. McKeezy, because in those moments when I'm too weak to hold up the mirror because I've gotten so beaten down, he holds up the mirror for me. in that moment. Just like Moses in the Bible had Aaron and Hur holding up his arms when they were fighting the war. So he holds up the mirror and he'll say, remember this, remember that, remember this, until I'm able to gain my strength and hold up the mirror for myself. So the first thing I'm going to say is you need a mentor. In my budget, there is no excuse. I carve out money to pay my mentor, my executive leadership coach. I carve out money. That is not a question, because I know that there are moments that I am not going to be able to do this by myself. So the first thing is make sure you have a mentor. And if you don't have a mentor in the sense that I'm speaking about, you need to have a good friend who can hold up the mirror to speak into you. And then when that happens, you are able to do it on your own. But if you don't have anybody right now, go back and read your accomplishments. Go back and read your accomplishments. It says write the vision and make it plain. Did you graduate school? Boom, I'm dope. Did you lead a school that was taken over and you are made one stride? I'm dope. Like rehearse your wins. Rehearse your wins. Do not forget that you are winning. And if you have never written down your wins, write down your wins so you can rehearse it. And if you didn't write down your wins, then you go to somebody and go, how am I doing today?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you trust.
Yeah.
You got to hear it, because faith comes by hearing. So build it up.
Man, I love them comments, man. Y'all feeling this presentation, this interview, this conversation today. Hit that share button, hit that retweet button. Let them know we are here, man, and we ain't going nowhere right now. Hit that share button, hit that retweet button. Dr. McNeil-Girmai, anything you wanted to contribute to that?
I did. First of all, everything you were saying so resonates, because the experience for a Black woman is just unparalleled, I think. And I think we all got to see it, though, with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson this year. And I don't know a friend of mine that did not listen to Cory Booker's speech and, really kind of tear up, because so often Black women are just broken down, and not lifted up. And to hear somebody stop and address that and stand up, was really, really powerful. I think it's just exactly the tips you said for making sure that you feel dope are correct. The chapter that I have in the book is titled around, is it me or is it you? Because those microaggressions and those macroaggressions are real. And it's really hard sometimes to be like, am I overthinking this? Am I feeling some kind of way? Or is there something else there that I'm experiencing due to racism? And so I think exactly what you said, having some allyship, somebody to say, is it me? Am I being sensitive here, or is there something else going on, is really important. And having somebody also to say to you, you're doing a good job. I think the biggest thing you have to do is be willing to stand with your convictions. And, as you said, my background was leadership for social justice. And, I went to a school with the Jesuits, which, I'm not Catholic. I am religious, but I'm not Catholic. But, having courses with them where we were pushed to what would be the morally right thing to do, what would be the socially just thing to do, is something I think about often. And so you got to decide what you're going to stand for, what you can live with, what is the right thing. And if you can hold your convictions, you can face anything.
I love it. And particularly, we'll talk about it later, but that whole social justice piece, man, we'll talk about it later, because I don't want to deviate like I did before. But let me keep moving. As an educator, and this is me as a teacher and a leader, I embraced that I was a Black teacher, right? There was nothing generic about me, right? I was a Black teacher. I was a Black principal, and I just happened to, I don't necessarily try to impose this on others, but just happened to wear my blackness on my sleeve. That's just who I was. The students were black, and that's the approach that I wanted to bring to. In other words, just being my authentic self. But all of that fueled my why, my purpose, my reason, my because, right? Because I'm not just there because there's a job there for me. It's walking in a purpose, one might say a calling. My why was very simple as I walked into PS 221 on Empire Boulevard in Crown Heights, New York, to inform, to inspire, and to empower Black boys, period. That was my why for 21 years. It does not mean I neglected my girls, because I did not. But in terms of my specificity, because see, when I talk to people about a why, like, obviously I'm a speaker. So when I talk to people about a why when I'm on the road, and they say things to me like, I said, what's your why? Well, I want to make a difference. Well, I want to make an impact. Well, I love children. And I say, and they go on and on. I said, no, that's all good stuff, but it's broad. We all like that couldn't certainly be waking you up in the morning. See a why is like right here. It's narrow. It's unique to you. It's personal. In fact, I got to yell this one. It's personal. See, so I'm asking you, I'm going to start with you, Dr. McNeil. What's your why? What's that thing that drives you, that eats you inside, keeps you awake, keeps you tossing and turning, dominates your thinking, dominates your conversations you have with other people? What's that thing you said, I will not stop until this thing is brought to fruition? Jump on in here.
I think it's all about removing barriers. It is the unspoken barriers that make the difference, whether it's financial, whether it's technology, whether it's basic needs, food, backpack, somewhere warm to sleep. We have to remove barriers for children. And that can't be done without collaboration and relationships with families. I think so many schools that I've worked with, in schools that I knew weren't a fit for me, it was very much, I am the educator, I know everything, I'm going to input that to this student and to this family. And that's never going to work. We need to make sure that there's partnership between families, and that's very important to me. If there is not that partnership and creating relationships, you can't get anywhere. You can only do what you can do during the school day, and that's very important. And I know not every family seems like they have the time or the interest, but I have not found a family I haven't been able to connect to if you continue to show that that's what you want. I did a survey at one point a couple of years back where we asked families what they needed in order to engage at the preschool level. And consistently what we heard is asking multiple times. If you send out a survey that says we need a volunteer, a lot of people are going to skip it. When you send that survey out and you say directly to somebody, I need you, you have these special gifts and these talents, suddenly people understand that their worth is valued. And when they feel worthy and a part of the school community, then their students feel worthy and a part of the school community. So, I guess it's that connection to family is really my why. And the golden rule, essentially, right? Do unto them as you would want done to your family and to your children.
That's a powerful why, because you're talking family engagement, and how do we operate as an island when there's a whole family and there's a whole community out there? So I want to be a part of that family. I want to be a part of that community, because because we're working in connection with one another, then there's a higher probability that the young people in the school are going to maximize their potential. I love it. I love it. Hey, Dr. Reilly, jump on in here. What's your why?
So my why is grounded in my life experiences. When I was growing up as a young child, I had a lot of trauma happening at home. I mean, it was just outrageous, from sexual abuse to um, physical abuse to just a lot of stuff that you shouldn't have to experience as a young child. However, all of my school experiences were absolutely amazing. School was my safe haven. School was the place where I was able to thrive and grow and find comfort, not only from my teachers, but also from my friends because of the atmosphere that the leaders created. And what I learned is when the smoke cleared from all of the trauma that I was experiencing, I had my papers. I had my papers. I had an education. I had the ability to think critically. I had the ability to make decisions for myself. I didn't know that I needed those papers because I was going through so much. I was worried about what was going on at home, but I was able to use escape at school that when it was over, then I was able to make a life for myself. Now imagine if my home life was a mess and my school life was a mess. I
Yeah,
wouldn't be able to talk to you right now because no telling where I would be in as an out with what the outcome would be. And so, because I understood that, I have set out to create a school which has is the safe haven for students and families that have experienced what I've experienced. Because you don't know who's coming to the school, but if you can make this school this place where the students are going to be able to have what they need to get their papers, so when the smoke clears, they have options, then I'm all for it. And that's what wakes me up every morning. That's what allows me to continue on after it feels like my back is being broken, after all of the bureaucratic tape I have to fight through and cut through. I'm going to do it so that way when the smoke clears for the students, they got their papers and they have options.
so what I'm hearing then, your why is extremely personal.
Extremely personal.
Yeah, yeah, and and that's where mine was. I think that's the same with all of us. It was personal, and that's why I yell out. I'm not doing it now because again, we dealing with grief here, but it was so personal,
Yes.
and with it being personal, I'm able to walk in it.
Yes.
See, how do you walk in something that you don't own? It's like you're doing somebody else's work, you're doing someone else's bidding. But when you can take ownership of it, when you can claim it because it's so personal, because it's yours, then it makes it that much easier to be able to walk in it. So I appreciate that. Dr. McNeil, question for you, and we kind of touched on it because I've gone off script so many times, but does being a Black woman principal, um, does it present its own unique reality or a set of challenges, or is it in your mind possible to lead generically as the appointed principal?
Um, I mean, I think first and foremost, it's a great opportunity, and what you said around leading boys is just such an important part, because again, Black women are often overlooked and often treated for granted and often not treated well. And so for young girls to see us in these roles is really powerful. And it's the little things. I had some girls whispering on the way out of school, a couple of weeks back, and I was like, "What are you whispering about?" They were like, "We like your sister locks." Something silly like that, that just makes a difference, that they can see themselves in your hair, and how you move, and how you interact, and understand that they too can be, quote unquote, in charge. For them, it's the boss or whatever it is really important. But I think, in terms of the leadership, I think it's about just creating a presence. And I think you have to go into it with your own confidence. You have to go into it knowing your mind, and that will allow you to lead generically, because you're leading from a place that feels right for you, and that you've got a vision. I think if you have a vision for where you want to take the school, that's going to lead you regardless. But I think the way to overcome all the potential missteps and all of the microaggressions and macroaggressions is by that sense of self and by, you know, just pushing forward. You got to push forward. You need a team, but you got to be able to push forward through the mess.
You know, you said something that it was probably it may have been matter of fact for you when you said it, but for me it resonated. And here's what it was. You said that the girls may be able to see themselves through your hair. That's powerful. And what I want you to do, because we got people, you know, people from just different walks of life, different levels of consciousness and all that kind of stuff. Talk to us about what that means. See oneself through someone else's hair.
I mean, it means so much because, like I said, I didn't have that going to school. You know, I did not have an African American teacher until high school. And all the roles are important, but this particular teacher was our PE teacher. I didn't see any Black women in the classroom. I really didn't see any Black men in the classroom either, but I didn't see any Black women for sure, you know, in the classroom until high school. And, you know, you don't realize always the toll that takes on you. You don't realize that there's no expectation there. And it obviously continues to be a huge problem. We know right now that, you know, the vast majority of educators are white female in a lot of schools. And it's, you know, my school included, and, you know, we've worked really hard at diversity, but that's still the percentage. So I think as much as we're saying that it matters to read stories, and it does, and it matters to watch TV, and it does, having somebody real in person that you can talk to, that you can see working with others, that can visit you in the classroom and ask you questions, it makes a big difference. It just, you know, I don't know if I can really even put it into words, but it's meaningful for me on the other end to have that for those girls.
No, I'm definitely hearing you loud and clear. Good stuff. You know, it's interesting, Dr. Reilly, and I'm gonna make this public. You probably never would have expected me to do this, but I'm gonna do this in the context of the question that I just asked Dr. McNeil-Girmai. You sent me 3 pictures to choose from, and one was you called it the girl next door, so that was kind of just mellow, calm. Another one, the pearls, and then you sent me that picture that for me you said book cover. For me, it said represents black power in a Black woman, and I chose that picture because of the message that it conveyed. I'm off script right now, Doc. I want to ask you, with the picture that I chose, what is that message in that picture? That for those of you that saw the post when I was advertising this platform, you'll know the picture I was talking about. Talk to me about that picture.
So, actually, it's on the cover of my book,
Yeah.
right? That's the picture right there.
Yep.
So that picture right there is just me saying, I'm here. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Can't get rid of me. And just know that I am in the room, right? Um, this book right here, Speaking in the Moment, that my mentor helped me choose the cover. At first, I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want that picture because that picture is real strong. It's a real strong picture, and then will it alienate, you know, certain audience members? Will it alienate a certain group of people?" And so I heard my mind play those conversations that have been mentioned in society or perpetuated in society. And I said, if I don't choose it, then what? Then I continue to perpetuate that narrative,
Yeah.
right? And if my mentor has led me this far, this long, and I've been doing great by listening and giving in, then why not?
Yeah.
And so I chose the picture. And it's funny, everyone, when they see that picture, they like, that picture is, here's my word again, dope.
Yeah,
And I think that word dope then it becomes unpacked for those because it resonates with them. It connects with um that part of us as black women that we are sometimes shy with releasing. Um it connects with the young girls who are still trying to find their way, but it also gives another perspective on who we are as women that the media is trying to perpetuate.
yeah,
We're not all out there breaking tables and, dancing in places that, may not be the best places to dance in. We're not all doing that. But there are a whole lot of us who look like this and
yeah,
who represent this.
yeah.
Um, and if I can be a small part of that reshaping the narrative, then I'm gonna do my part.
That's good stuff. That's powerful. So I put that on the screen because put that title back up.
Yes, it's called Five Buckets of Leadership Speaking in the Moment.
Go to right to Amazon. Get your copy. Let's take it to number one. Get your copy. Number one on Amazon. Get your copy today. Let's keep moving. Dr. Ra, I got the same question I have for Dr. McNeil. Does being a black woman principal present its own unique reality or set of challenges, or can one just go in there and be the appointed principal?
Yeah, I think it's not or or it's not and, but it's both. It's or and, right? Um, First you need to examine your context. You need to examine the atmosphere that you are in. You may be the only. Wow, what a powerful legacy you can leave by being the only. You are in the room, right? You can reshape language. We were just talking about hair, and instead of saying, what are some languages that you can use? You know what? Your hair doesn't defy gravity. My hair does. Boom. Start reshaping language. Start giving different language that will help lift up experiences for other children that look like you, that you're in the district and you may be the only one. But everyone has to be the first, so take pride in being the first. We are celebrating Kamala Harris for being the first vice principal woman, and so be the first. And if you are not the first, then be one of the second, the third. And if you are coming in with a narrative that has to be reshaped, then know that you were appointed and anointed to do that. I'm very grounded in my faith. I say I'm a God girl. So I am clear that all leadership is appointed by God. So if you were appointed as a leader in a situation where the narrative has to be changed, then you have all that you need to do it. Whether you're a black woman or not, you're anointed for this work.
Anointed for the work. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm gonna stay with you, Dr. Reilly, on this one, and then I'm gonna get back to Dr. McNeil. I was as a teacher, I taught in two different schools, one in New York, one here in Jersey. And both schools, I had a black woman principal and a white male assistant principal. Because of who I am and was, culturally speaking, historically speaking, philosophically speaking, I tended to gravitate to the black woman principal because I knew that both of them could relate to me on that level. So my question to you, I'm thinking about my audience out here. And we have a lot of folks that watch this platform who are not black.
Hmm.
As principal who is white but has black students and staff, what advice, and I'm going to give this to both of you. I'm going to start with Dr. Reilly. What advice would you have with that white principal that is detached culturally with black staff and black students, but desires to have that connection? What advice would you have for that person to build that connection with someone who's culturally very different from you?
Well, the first thing I would say is that you first must examine your heart, right? I mean, children are children. There are principles of childhood that are the same across every culture that you can speak of, whether it's an Asian child, a Native American child, a Black child. There are attributes of children, and then it becomes, different based on the cultures, right, and where the environment and the growing up. But the one thing that's central and core is that they are children and they want to be loved. There is a quote that says, children that are not loved at home come to school. I mean, children that are loved at home come to school to learn. Children that don't get love at home come to school to be loved. That's any child. That's
Mhm.
children in general, right? We were talking about Frederick Douglass earlier, and he said it's better to build strong children than to repair broken men. So that's children, right? So if we understand that central theme about children and operate from there, then we can educate ourselves around the cultural differences based on the children that we are destined, appointed, and anointed to lead. So whether you are a Black principal where your population is Native American children, you got to learn the culture and the history of Native American children in order to connect and make the curriculum relevant.
Mhm.
Whether you are a white principal leading Black and brown children, then you need to be able to be well versed in the culture and the dynamics that impact them so that you can lead in that properly. So I say go back to school, read some books, find some counterparts that you can have discussions with. Speak to the children, sit down and have conversations with the children and just hear and couple what you know about kids with what they're sharing with you about culture to create and curate the atmosphere. But start with your place of love. And if you look at a child, whether they're Black, brown, Native American, or they're different from you, and you can't love them because they're a child, then I say, are you in the right profession?
That's right. I agree. All right, that's the question. Are you in the right profession?
Yeah.
Start with the love, as Principal Akbar Cook says. Focus on the love.
Focus on the love.
Was wearing that shirt 2 days ago.
Yes.
Go ahead, Dr. McNeil-Girmai.
So a couple things because I had a minute to think. So thanks for going first there. I think it's a really interesting question, particularly after, or I hope after the pandemic. There were so many interesting articles that came out about students who didn't want to come back to school. And, there was so many beliefs about how detrimental being home was for students. And yet there were so many students who finally felt like loved and safe and comfortable all through the school day and could just focus on the learning. And so, when you think about that, you really realize how much we're maybe missing and carrying home to school. So I think the advice would be, first and foremost, acknowledging that there are differences and that there is maybe a limit, to the understanding of their leadership. Um, and I think sometimes the way people do that is by finding the Black staff member or finding the Black parent and asking questions. And that it's not to say that that's not okay, but there's also a limit to that too, right? You can't have the one person that you go and ask every question. Is this offensive? Is this okay? So trying to figure out how you can acknowledge what you don't know as a leader that maybe doesn't match the demographics of the school, but also figure out a team to really support you. The other thing I think is just around immersion. The title of my dissertation was a student quote that I talked to about her experiences with school. And the student said at one point, "This is our life. We can't drive home." And felt very disconnected from the teachers that she worked with because they didn't know her community. They didn't live in her community. At the end of the day, they got in their cars, they went home to their own community and their own lives and a very different socioeconomic situation. And so I think you have to be willing to spend some time in the community and make connections to it. At a minimum, understand what the students maybe are experiencing, but also to really be able to participate and make connections. So I would say the immersion and the acknowledgement.
You said something really powerful in that quote, that this is our life. We can't drive home. You know, as a teacher, I used to take my some of my white colleagues to some of the homes of the children that they taught, because we would departmentalize at the elementary level, 5th grade. So we were teaching the same students. And essentially, after we would leave those homes, I would say to them, see, you because there were so many different dynamics that teachers were very uncomfortable with being in those spaces. So I would say to them, see, you can jump in your car and drive on home. They got nowhere to go. This is home. See, and that's something, you know, going back to the question, and that's something that administrator, that teacher or administrator have to understand, that you know, you may be going home to something that's very different from the experience that young person is having when that youngster goes home, that you can't relate to, you can't identify with. And if we asked you to change places with that youngster for a day, you probably wouldn't last in that youngster's shoes for 10 minutes, some of those youngsters, right? So it's so important, as the two of you say, you got to be able to transcend your own reality and start to understand. And it starts with the love, as you say, right? Good stuff.
Can I
Let me
add something? Can I add
yeah,
something to that?
absolutely.
And I would also say, as the leader, whether you're the school leader or the teacher leader, to constantly analyze and challenge your biases,
Mm,
right? So I remember being a teacher in the classroom, and you know, there were children who would come to school and their hygiene was questionable, right? And I remember, you know, saying, "Oh my gosh, you know, it is very offensive to my nostrils, to whatever." And I heard my inner monologue really kind of talk about it, and then I got convicted personally. Like, well, what you gonna do about it? They, the parents are sending you their best. This is their best, right? And so if they are sending you their best, then they are in your charge. What you gonna do about it? And so that same type of thought process is what I carried when I became an assistant principal, and then what I carried as a school leader. That whenever I hear my biases play out in my inner monologue, then I constantly challenge it and ask, what am I doing about it? And I use the mantra, not on my watch.
not on your watch. You know, Dr. McNeil, when you know, that was a good transition when Dr. Reilly spoke about biases, because when you were at a young age, you were accused of cheating on a spelling test, and the teacher moved you to another part of the classroom because of that perception that it was you versus the other student. And as a young adult, you came into a deeper understanding of what that was all about. So what I want to do, and folks, for those that don't know, these two authors are part of a book of about 35 authors. It's called Fighting the Good Fight. This is my second Saturday book that I use, narratives of the African American principalship. So in addition to Dr. Reilly's book, she's also in this book along with Dr. McNeil-Girmai. Get yourself a copy of this, right? Fighting the Good Fight, right? And I want to read to the audience a quick paragraph. It ain't that quick, but I want to read something. So take a listen, folks. This is coming from Dr. McNeil-Girmai. She said, my trajectory, let me make sure I'm on the right page. Yeah, my trajectory from student to principal allowed me to work in both suburban and urban districts in Massachusetts, California, and New York with diverse demographic groups. Working in both traditional and charters, low socioeconomic public schools, I observed quickly that education meant to be the one way to level the playing field was rather drastically tilted away from equity. Let me read that again. She said, I observed quickly that education, meant to be the one way to level the playing field, was rather drastically tilted away from equity. Let me keep going. I'm going to read fast. In the struggling schools, there were never enough funds, materials, invested faculty members, or time for family and student collaboration to make change come about. In the stronger schools, performance-wise, test scores were the brass ring, and although they did not intentionally take the cream of the top, initially there was an effort to stay afloat by any means necessary. Often this led to moving lower performing students to schools performing at even lower rates. This was done through a variety of tactics, resulting in students feeling being pushed out, family investment overlooked, and the ability and expertise of Black and brown students and families questioned as they were asked to acquiesce to educators who believe they knew best, period. Now, that's a lot there, a lot to unpack, but what I want to say to you, this word equity. Equity, as the two of you know, there's no universal definition. It's, we're all talking equity out there, but it's equity according to the person that's articulating it, or according to what they read, or according to who they listen to, whatever it is. I'm guilty of the same thing. I've created my own definition of equity and went on and wrote a book about it, right? The Equity and Social Justice Education 50. I'm saying simply, equity is meeting young people where they are, ... capital letters, as they are. Right? Again, meeting young people where I'm coming as I am. So I'm at the front door. This is me. Meet me here. And this is who I am. So meet me as I am, because as you just said, Dr. Reilly, mom's sending her best. So I'm this is it. Meet me here, teacher. Don't pretend I'm here. If I'm here, meet me right there. If I don't dress the way you want me to, if I don't smell the way you want me to, if I don't look the way you want me to, look here. I'm me, and I'm coming to you as I am. With that said, Dr. McNeil, when you mention equity, how are you defining equity?
I think you just defined it for me.
Okay.
I think ultimately the problem is we're all talking about equity. It's what everyone in school is talking about, but we are still practicing from a place of equality. We're not meeting students where they are and providing all the things that they truly need. And this is what I meant before about removing barriers.
Mm-hmm.
We need to take each kid where they are and provide whatever supports it's going to take to get them there. So there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of talk about equity, but when we kind of pull back the curtain, is the funding equitable or is it equal, right?
Yeah.
Is the staffing equitable or is it equal? Where are the strongest teachers? What are we doing to keep them in the schools that need them the most? What are we doing to provide supports and services to families that don't have the extra money for tutoring, that don't have the extra money for summer camp? It's all of those enrichment things. It's all of those extras that add up and make it impossible for a lot of students to catch up. It's one little thing by 20 and suddenly there's no way to catch up. So I think it's exactly what you said. It's really taking kids where they are and getting them to the same place.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that language. It's I look at equity as being the vehicle to equality and not the other way around. When equality becomes the vehicle, then we're in trouble, and that's what it's historically been. Right. So with that, then, and with the question, let me say this to you, because I got a part to my question. When I talk equity, I have eliminated the word all. This is me. This is personal now. I don't use all with the equity conversation. I use the word each. Right. So I don't say equity for all, for example, and that's a very popular cliche. I say equity for each of the youngsters, and the reason that I do that is because when we talk about all, individuals can get lost. But when we talk about each, we're talking about every individual in the room or in the building, in the district, whatever it is. So with that said, as a Black woman principal, I'm still with Dr. McNeil, but I want you to feel free to jump in here, Dr. Reilly. As a Black woman principal, how are you ensuring equity for each of your students while simultaneously advocating for those youngsters who are from historically marginalized, historically oppressed groups without being perceived as having a bias? for those kids by your staff?
Yeah. Well, I look at it as the same as we would look at tiered support, right? We have tier one that goes to everybody. You have a great academic program at your school, everybody is benefiting from that. Tier two would be the students who need more. Tier three, the ones who need even more. And so, you have to get to a place where you can do that with your students. Massachusetts, I will give credit, had for a little while through their state assessment system and also pulling from a lot of different portals, they had a way that you could pull the students that would be at risk based on attendance, based on economic status, based on test scores. And we used to use that as saying, okay, if we already know in first grade before this child has taken any statewide standardized assessments that they are considered at risk, what are we doing? And it should be at a point where each teacher knows who those kids are without a bias. You have to balance that, and you have to work with your staff to not have them go into it thinking negatively, but thinking about it as an opportunity. If you know that this student is at risk, what are we going to do? What is the initiative? And what we've managed to do is, in addition to things, we've layered on things like mentoring, right? So mentoring is going to be a support for this student, but also just there's not enough time academically to get things done. I think that's something we all probably would agree with. You can't get everything you need done during the school day. So what are the enrichment opportunities that we can push this kid into? How do we get funding? It's a lot of grant writing. It's a lot of, push for funding from alternative sources. But I think we've got to think beyond and just bill it, to your point about how do we make it not look as though it's this way. It's not this way if you're really looking at the data. And because that is not always going to be, that's a problem too, that we assume that it's going to be our Black and brown students that are going to be at the bottom. It's not always going to be that. It's going to be, but it may be a lot of our students that don't have resources economically at home. It may be our students who don't have an English speaking parent at home to support that homework. So we really have to look kid by kid, as you said. It can't be all. It really needs to be, your school, your families, the needs, and you're able to differentiate for them.
There you go. That each, and that each is so critical. I mean, like I said before, so many definitions of equity out here, man. So many different writings and books and so forth. But that each, and I'll throw this out there. Folks who've been on this platform with me for a while, they know this, but I say all the time, it is not enough to do equity. You must be equity. See, we're talking about what you bring in terms of who you are, not just a set of practices in a classroom. Hey, Dr. Reilly, here's a big one, man. You got a Black principal appointed to a school, a diverse school, where this person is one of the first, if not the first, Black principal in the building, right? And this is an experience with a whole lot of people out here. They're the first, but everybody on that staff was not necessarily welcoming of this new Black principal because we're accustomed to having a white principal in the school. So this Black principal that's appointed now, there's some tension in the building, right? There's some tension in the air. And my question to you is, how does this newly appointed Black principal in this environment that's never seen a Black principal, or hasn't seen one in a very long time, how does this principal put everybody at ease and ultimately be able to lead the school when they're dealing with this dynamic of this first Black principal?
So, great question, because I think a lot of the listeners and have experienced this, right? And especially because society is proliferating Blackness, right? In such a way that you can't be ignored anymore. You have to deal with it, and some people are dealing with it because that's an in thing to do and those kinds of things. But the one thing that I can say is that Any individual that's in a school, they first came to teaching, it's the hope, to do right by children, right? And it is my humble opinion that it is incumbent upon the leader to get everyone rallied around a central vision. And so, how does the leader be crafty in his or her negotiation skills to move the needle or the attention from me being Black or a woman to the work? It's about the work, right? And how do you do that? So that takes that takes skill set. One of the things that I would say to my staff is that there is no hierarchy in our building. You know, we're all on the same leveling playing field doing the same work. We just have different levels of responsibility. That's all.
Yeah.
And so, how do you come to the work like that? So, you have to get rid of the ego, but understand that that is a variable. That elephant is in the room.
Yeah.
So, in some cultures, you got to address the elephant. Hey, y'all, I guess I'm telling y'all something I ain't know. I'm Black. And that'll break the ice, right? And you may want to address it head on. You may need to do some pre-work, like building some relationships prior to you walking in the building, answering those questions head on. Um, I'm gonna say something about my book again because my book is about speaking in the moment because I teach you a technique to hijack your brain when you're in these high-powered, pressured situations and you want to speak clearly and succinctly. I know sometimes you walk away and be like, "Dang, I should have said that. Dang, I should have did that." But I teach you how to do that so that way you can sound like a pro every time. But it's important that you, one, know your context, two, address it head on, but three, get everyone focused on the work and not on individuals. Because when you rally around the work, then you get greater things done.
I love it. And you see what I put on that screen? Lisa Norwood Williams. I
Hmm.
experienced this 2 years ago. 90% of my staff quit because they didn't want to work for a Black principal and said so out loud.
Thank
See,
God.
hey, Lisa, Principal Williams, I'm so grateful that you put that on, that you put that out there, because there are people that don't think that this kind of stuff goes on. Like
Hmm.
we in this post-racial society, and this would never happen, right? It just happened. I mean, think about that. 90%, then you may as well say 100%, right? The whole staff, we ain't working with you. And the kicker is at the end, and said so out loud. See, that's real world. We want to get caught up into critical race theory and who might feel uncomfortable. These are real experiences, right? So I appreciate you, and I hope you were able to bounce back from that, Dr. Williams. When them 90% left, you brought some superstars in there, and you taking care of business. Feel free to let us know what happened afterwards, because someone else asked you that on here, I see as well. Hey, Dr. Reilly, I'm gonna stay with you, and I'm gonna go back to you, Dr. McNeil, which will take us right to the end. So we good. You were appointed to your first principalship, Dr. Reilly, in your early 30s. I guess this is going to give somewhat of your age, in 2006, but you wrote it. So
I tell everyone I'm 50. I just made 50.
that's right. Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, you did that video.
Yes.
So you were excited about leading a school of Black and brown children who were primarily instructed. You get out. I'm busy. Dogs messing with me. My daughter's dog. Who people tell me, call him your grand dog. It's not your daughter's dog, right? So who were primarily instructed by Black and brown staff. You entered the school mid-year in the midst of a scandal, financial improprieties amongst staff, and ultimately some staff, and ultimately the principal was removed. I too, like the other one that I read, I want to read something real quick, y'all. Y'all hang with me for a second. I gotta read this. You said here, as an African American woman in my early 30s, I was excited about leading a school filled with Black and brown children who were primarily instructed by Black and brown individuals. This feeling was grounded in a study by, and I guess I'll pronounce this correctly, I'm gonna try, Eaglelight and Casita, 2018, that found that when teachers look like their students, Positive. Now, this is a study. When teachers look like their students, positive outcomes such as personal effort, happiness in class, feeling cared for, and motivated by their teacher, quality of student-teacher communications, and college aspirations are experienced more often than when teachers do not look like their students. That's a lot there. Where do I want to go with this? Because there's so much to say there. So, Doc, I got questions here, but I'm gonna go off script for this first one. So, if that's the case, that I am in a school, the study says what it says, and we know that there are multiple studies that say the same thing. But I don't have an all-black staff, but I got black students. What's my role as principal then to ensure that my non-black staff is still highly proficient with my black students?
So I was fortunate enough to work with Dr. Eddie Fergus out of Temple University because my city had embarked on this equity journey to ensure that the leaders were proficient in defining equity and leading equity and equity, right?
Mhm.
And so I was fortunate to be part of the pioneer group to work with Dr. Fergus. And one of the things that he brought to light for us as we worked closely with him is the fact that when you are dealing in situations as you just talked about, described, people's feelings get in the way, right? People's biases begin to cloud their thinking, their judgment. Heated conversations begin to happen. The environment gets charged. And if the leader is not well versed in how to navigate that, the work will get stuck and kids will suffer. They'll become the collateral damage. And so in his study, he talked about disproportionality in offerings, in curriculum, in how your school is moving through the work. And so when you have staff that don't look like their students, if you get focused on that, then children become collateral damage, right? If you get focused on the fact that I got white teachers and I don't have any black teachers, then you've moved away from what school is supposed to be about. And so, as a leader, you know that that's there, that that's important. So, that is something that you must attend to, but it can't be the prime objective. The prime objective has to be, are we creating a fair and equitable educational environment for our students? Are we challenging students? Are Do we have the right adults in front of children, whether they're black, white, yellow, brown, purple, green, polka dot? Is that the right adult in front of a student? Because there are some kinfolk who ain't the right folk, right? There are some kinfolk who ain't the right folk. And so we as leaders have to be mindful of that. And that's what we're examining. What are your course offerings? Is there disproportionality happening? Are your teachers providing that safe environment for students? Is that what you're curating? And so if you have those 90% who have said, I'm not working for a black leader, as tough as that may seem, as much as that may be a blow to your ego, it's better to know, better to have the devil that you know than the devil that you don't know. I don't remember the correct saying, but they were forthright. And in the end, I'm sure the children are better off for it. So it's just understanding your role. And like you said earlier, Principal Kafele, you don't know what you're getting into. And when you sit in the seat, bam,
Yeah, you don't
you
know.
get hit.
You don't know what you're getting
You
into. So
don't.
it's those relationships, those collaborations is so important. Good stuff. Somebody asked me again, the book that this particular book, Fighting the Good Fights. I just put it on the screen. Narratives of the African American of the African American principalship, We're using this most second Saturdays, not all second Saturday, most second Saturdays until I've exhausted the book of all the writers. There are 35, and this is just a phenomenal book. The endorsement at the top is actually written by me. And so I fully endorse this book. There's nothing like this out there. There's nothing that's ever been written like this out there. You got to get your hands on this. I love this book, right? So get your hands on this book. I got one more for you, Dr. Reilly, and then I'm gonna go to McNeil, and we're gonna close it out with our rapid fire questions. You were excited about being in this new school. You started making some adjustments as you saw fit, but there was backlash, right? There was backlash. I'm not going to ask you to get into that because I read it and it was fascinating. It's movie worthy, right? It really is. And I won't ask you to, I was talking to my son about it, and I said, look, I'm just going to give her, I'm gonna give her the opportunity. If she wants to jump in, if she can, but she doesn't have to. I'm not going to nail you to that question. But talk to us about the backlash, how you handled the backlash, and now 16 years later, if you had it to do all over again, would you have handled it the same or different?
So I'll start with there. So, when I was going through everything, my dad pulled me to the side and my dad asked me, um, do you regret making the decision that you made that became the subject of the backlash that I received, right? And my answer was emphatically, no, Dad, I don't regret it. If I had to make that choice again, I would do it again. And he said, well, then, baby girl, lift your head up and keep doing what you're doing,
Mm,
right? So I said, okay. So that was, the positive strength for me. Um, some of the things that I probably would have done differently is that I never addressed it with the staff head on, right? I just kept moving like we do with trauma. Like we don't stop and we don't address traumatic experiences. I just kept going, kept going, kept going. But I probably would have addressed it, but um at the time I was young and naive and I really didn't know how to address it. I wasn't tenured.
mm,
It was big. And so with that fear and what society was already saying. I was a single mom at the time. I had young babies and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't lose my job. So I had to play the game that I knew how to play to keep me being able to feed my babies at the time, but here I am, 16, it's going 18, 17 years later. I know some of the missteps that I made. That's the reason why I want to assist those who may be going through some traumatic experiences too. Um, but I wouldn't have made the choice that became the my personal choice. It was a personal choice I made. I would have always done that. I would have done that over again.
yeah,
Um, and I would have learned a little bit more about what happens when you do become a principal because it is a political seat much more than you realize.
yeah,
It is a public seat much more than you realize. You know it, but you don't understand it until you're really sitting in that seat.
yeah.
Um, so that's my answer to it again. For those of you who don't know, you can read the book. We
Yeah,
get the book.
no, it's because it's actually a fascinating essay that you wrote. So folks, fighting the good fight. I didn't want to ask a specific question about what Dr. Reilly had to deal with, but it was rough. It's traumatic stuff.
I
But she got through it.
I'll give some highlights.
Yeah,
Because the book I only had a certain amount of pages to write and
yeah.
words for that, but some of the highlights, I was the object of a mayoral debate. I was the center of a CNN news story.
Oh,
I've been on the front cover of um, all major newspaper articles. Um, it was very, 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 like you said, it is movie worthy.
yeah,
It is movie worthy. But two of the main things that got me through it, as I said, is, my faith in God. You can't do this work if you don't have intestinal fortitude and you don't have something that grounds and centers you. You cannot because you will be hit. in ways that you've never thought possible. And then God bringing my mentor into my life.
Yeah.
So those are the things that happened. But that's the quick version of everything that occurred as people were upset at the fact that all I wanted to do was to create an environment that was safe for children who need options to live their best life.
That's it. And to the new people out there, before I go to this last question with Dr. McNeil-Girmai, stuff happens sometimes. You know, the as my colleague just said here, my man, I should say, politics of education. And I don't know if you recall, because you're 10 years, 11 years younger than me, Doc, but back in '04, you know, the open line on Kiss FM, I was subject to a lot of what you were subject to, but the difference between, I guess, myself and you, I was an author at the time, even though I was principal, so I was under fire as a principal, but I was an author. So when back with the old crew that was on that show, James Mtume, Bob Slade, and Bob Pickett, they had me on to discuss my new book at the time in '04, not knowing I had been suspended from my job and was in termination was going to occur the next week at the board meeting. So it was all over the New York media and the New Jersey print media. And well, we had a news station, UPN 9 at that time. But I had to go through all that. I got through it. The board voted unanimously that I had done nothing inappropriate or wrong. My superintendent and we got into it, and that's what it was all about. And they said, you report back to work. But I had to deal with all that emotionally, like you did, right? But I got through it. So to someone out there that may be going through some stuff, you fight it strategically, you do it appropriately, you'll get through. Right? That's right, Nisha. 98.7 Kiss FM, not 98.7 ESPN. We talking about the real 98.7, right? Yeah. So you fight it, you know, and do know you're in good company.
Yeah.
You know, the ones that get into that kind of trouble, that's the warriors. That's the
Yeah.
ones who's doing the real work. We the ones that get in that kind of trouble.
Yes, the real trouble.
So it's all good, man. We can look back on that stuff and laugh, man.
Well, good trouble, good trouble.
Good trouble, good trouble. Hey, Dr. McNeil, I got one more. I got to read something too. But you know, I got this motto where I think anybody that's good at what they do is going to say, if their heart's in the right place, they're going to say, I teach children first and content secondarily. Right. One of the books I wrote, I have a question in the book which says, do I teach math or do I teach Matthew? Right. So math is a content area. Matthew is a child. Right. So what's my sequence? What's my priority? Is it the child, or is it I'm a math teacher and I teach math, and either you're going to get this or you're not? See, ain't no equity in that space. That's equality now. Like either you all going to get it or you're not. But the one that teaches Matthew, now we're talking each. Now we're talking about an individual, right? So with that, you had said if I'm going to effectively educate a child, getting to know the child is a priority, and which is inclusive of being culturally competent as an educator. That's my paraphrase. Let me read what you actually said. You said, in assisting teachers, and again, folks, I'm reading from Fighting the Good Fight. You said, in assisting teachers, and this really jumped out at me, many of whom will have different cultural, racial, and socioeconomic backgrounds from their students. Let me slow down. Teacher education programs need to develop differentiated courses for incoming teachers. Now, y'all gonna have to forgive me. I gotta read that again because I totally screwed up. In assisting teachers, many of whom will have different cultural, racial, and socioeconomic backgrounds from their students, teachers' education programs need to develop differentiated courses for incoming teachers. These courses need to provide a variety of reading, research, and application opportunities that consider what school, life, and cultural experiences teachers have already had screwed up again, and cultural experiences teachers have already had and adequately prepare them for new ones. When I read that, I said, amen, because I've been preaching that sermon forever, right? Forever. So I'm saying, how do I come into an environment that I don't know? Like for example, what part of the Bronx you in, Dr. McNeil? I mean, Dr. Reilly?
I'm South Bronx.
South Bronx, South Bronx, South Bronx,
BX
South Bronx.
all
Many
day.
people say my style is terrific. It is kind of different, but let's get specific. Let me
That's
stop
right.
right there. Right. So here's the thing. So I'm a teacher somewhere, and I'm from, I don't know, I'm from West Orange, New Jersey, right? I'm from Livingston, Millburn, somewhere up here in the suburbs, right? And I decide, man, it's an opportunity in South Bronx. So I go to South Bronx. My intentions are good, but culturally, life is very different from where I came from. My intentions are sound, but it doesn't mean that my knowledge base and my skill set are immediately compatible with where I'm going. I may have the potential to be better, but for now, I don't have it, right? So I'm asking you now, Dr. McNeil, what can a principal do to help that? So because the program you're advocating, it ain't gonna happen tomorrow, right? So therefore, in the interim, what can the principal do in the building to get that teacher that much more prepared to be able to connect with that young person?
So I think it's about fostering communications. You know, I've definitely worked in so many schools that have, to your point, you know, well-meaning first-year teachers, and that's a lot of times the vast majority of the teaching population. Well-meaning first-year teachers, they don't have the experience, they don't have the background, they have good hearts, and they are eager, but they don't know what they're walking into. So I think, you know, the first thing that they need to understand is that they need to respect the students, they need to respect the families, they need to respect the communities that they're in. And I think you have to say that. You have to be upfront about it and let them know that, you know, there's, and this is in all communities. You know, it's very easy that teachers get into this space and administrators get into this space where they expect respect, but they don't necessarily give it. And they need to understand that it's going to be a two-way street. And that by giving respect, they'll be able to kind of have the basis for relationships. I think the next piece is creating a safe space for difficult conversations. You know, you have to be willing to tell somebody when something they wrote in a parent letter or something you heard them say to a parent or to a student didn't feel right. It didn't sound right. And you also want to be able to get to a place where people feel comfortable to ask you those questions. You know, I felt really good a few years back, right around the madness of George Floyd, when people actually started sharing with me more frequently their lessons.
Yeah.
Does this feel competent? Did I phrase this the right way? Am I doing this right? And that takes a lot of vulnerability for people to open themselves up for a conversation.
Yeah.
So I think you really have to build that foundation that you don't want it to be the other way where necessarily someone is kind of bombarding the one teacher of color with questions. But I think if you are the administrator of color in a school that doesn't reflect that, you want to open yourself up to that, because it's better for a teacher to ask you that question and get a read from you about the best way to interact with families than not doing that and sending something out that could have bigger implications.
And I'm hearing once again principal leadership from you. And that's and we're the catalyst, and that's a word that you use that I'm gonna share in a second. But that's who you are, that's who we are in these capacities. Now just to build on it, you said in your dissertation, your dissertation was the catalyst for the focus on teacher cultural competence and family engagement. I'm asking you, I got a two-parter. What is cultural competence, and what are the advantages and disadvantages to being a Black woman principal who is a proponent of cultural competence?
So when I think of cultural competence, I think about Gloria Ladson-Billings and how she's defined it. Academic achievement, ensuring that that's happening, that there is socio-political consciousness. And that gets at what we talked about knowing the community that you worked with and understanding the last component, that cultural competence piece, understanding the cultures of the students. It all goes together. It's not enough to just come in and be like, great, I'm part of the community. If the kids aren't learning, we don't care that you're part of the community, but you have to be able to put it all together. And, I think that there's always going to be questions. But again, I think if you go into it, we all have the same end goal, right? That end goal is that academic achievement. But if people feel respected in the process, and like you said, that catalyst, like I said, that came from, that one quote that I shared before about this is our life, we can't drive home. That was a culmination of hearing, focus groups from students, from families, and feeling that they didn't feel respected, by educators. And that's something that, wasn't specific to that school. I've heard that and seen that over and over and over again in education. We know everything. You're not bringing anything to the table. Like, it has to be a two-way street. And I think that when families know at the end of this, we have the same goal that your child is going to achieve, then your race isn't going to matter. They all want the same thing, right? They're all of our children.
All of our children. And you cited Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings. I was pleased that yesterday she accepted the invitation to be on this platform in the fall. So we're gonna have her on here in the fall. So look out for that, because I told her, I said, I want you to bring all things Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings to the conversation. So she said, it's on my calendar. I'm ready. So we have come to the end. Right at 1 o'clock, but we got these rapid fire questions, y'all. Y'all read that in the piece I sent you. So I'll break it up into, since I got two guests on, we go 10 and 10. There are 20 questions, and then the last question I ask of both of you. So these are rapid fire. That means that I just want either one word answer or one sentence. If you feel yourself going into a second or third, you slowed it down, right? So just one word, one sentence, and we're gonna do that. And Toya, I'm gonna reach out to Dr. Goldie Muhammad as well. We getting them all on here, right? So we're gonna get them on here. So here we go. I'm gonna give the first 10 to Dr. McNeil. Here we go. Is education on the right path for underserved children?
Yes, I think the pandemic has opened up some doors that were closed.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
I'm going to go with if there's a will, there's a way. So yes.
Does your work, Dr. Elaine McNeil-Girmai, does your work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Yes.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
Same.
Why do you continue to do this work?
Teachers matter. Every single person can tell you about their favorite teacher.
What fires you up within the work that you do?
The children.
What do you love about the work you do?
The outcomes.
What do you dislike about the work you do?
The struggles of the conflicts.
Sound like you're saying the politics of education, and I say that because that's exactly every guest that's been on here. That's what they say, right? And what has been your greatest victory in this work?
Making it to the end of 2 pandemic school years.
And what was your greatest mistake in this work?
Thinking that this school year would be better than last year.
Dr. Reilly, here we go. What has been your greatest challenge in this work?
Getting out my own way.
Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
As an assistant principal?
Mhm.
Yeah, I am.
Are you proud of your first year as a principal?
Yes, because I made it.
Who inspires you in this work?
Wow. My mentor, Dennis McKeezy.
What are you reading right now?
Oh, Click by George Fraser.
What book do you recommend for our viewers?
Rudolph Giuliani's biography.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet?
I want to buy an island.
Are you satisfied with where you are now professionally?
Satisfied. That's an interesting word. I'm gonna say yes. Slow yes, a slow yes.
Yeah. What could you say to a viewer out there who continues to face closed doors?
Um, as a God girl, one door opens, one door closes, another opens. That wasn't the door for you.
And finally, what could you say to a viewer out there who's lost their fire?
Lost the fire. Um, get get some embers and have somebody breathe on it.
There you go. There you go. And then for both of you, I'll start with Dr. McNeil. If Dr. Elaine McNeil-Girmai was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Well, that's a hard one to be quick. I would hope that it would be representative and reflective.
And same question for you, Dr. McNeil. If Dr. Anissa, I'm sorry, Dr. Reilly, if Dr. Anissa Reilly was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
I just have to say what I've been saying. Dope.
Dope. There it is. There it is. There it is. And I see McKeezy's been on here the whole time.
Oh, my brother.
Tell us, let me start with Dr. Reilly here. Dr. Reilly, how do we get in touch with you? How do we book you to come out and do some consulting, some speaking? How do we buy your books? Tell us everything.
Yes, so you want to book me as a consultant, you can go to giantstep6llc.com, or you can email me at info@giantstep6llc.com. So you can go on the website and fill out one of the consulting pages, or you can just email me. You can get the book, 5 Buckets of Leadership, Speaking in the Moment. You can get it from Amazon, or you can go on to askdrreilly.com for the book there as well. I am open for consulting. I am transitioning to full time consulting. And so I'm ready to help you do this work. I'm ready to support you in this work. I'm ready to be your strategic thinking partner, your shoulder, and your professional therapist for those of us who have experienced professional trauma. So I'm here for this work.
Good stuff. And did you give me your social media handles?
Oh no, I didn't. So all of mine, IG, Facebook, Twitter is all Ask Dr. Reilly. So just ask Dr. Reilly.
And there's the
So
spelling
yeah.
there. All right. So y'all reach out. She's available. Dr. McNeil, how do we reach you?
So the best way to reach me would be on LinkedIn. I'm on there as Elaine Girmai, and I am also taking a little bit of a sabbatical year from the principalship, doing a lot more work on teacher training and curriculum. So very much interested in supporting and hopefully kind of developing what we just talked about, having that right trajectory for teachers going into the field.
So therefore, what Dr. McNeil is saying, she's also available for consulting as well. So they're both available. So certainly reach out to them. I see a lot of y'all been putting the fire emoji. So see, we got a lot of folks that have been with me for a while. When we have guests, I ask you, let them know how you feel. If you like this conversation, give me that fire, give me them bombs, give me whatever your favorite emojis are, but fill that chat up with that applause for another fantastic conversation, discussion around perspectives on leading while Black. I see them coming now. Here come the fire. Yeah, let them know. Get them books. Dr. Reilly, put that book back on the screen one more time.
Yes,
Your book.
yes.
Yeah,
So
there
it's
it is.
Five
Speaking.
Buckets of Leadership, Speaking in the Moment. And this is the first in the series. The next one is going to be about blind spot indicator, the importance of coaching and mentorship as
Yeah.
a leader. So
Good stuff. Good stuff. Keep that fire coming. And y'all know, as I do, look here, you know, I gotta tell y'all, man. Now, you know, Jefferson County out in Louisville, you know, they gave me this joint about a year ago, right? When I
nice.
spoke, because you know, to go with this. But now I was speaking with this group in Kentucky, behavioral disorder, and they gave me this one. They just shipped it to me. So we got two now. So I'll use my new joint today. Y'all just hit it out the park, man. Grand slam. 4 runs in, like Aaron Judge on the Yankees, man. So we good job to my sisters in leadership. So thank you for that. Thank you, everybody. Let me close out. Can the two of you just wait for me? Don't leave me, right? To everybody else, thanks for being here. As I always say, thanks for being here. Thank you, thank you. And week 115 is in the books. We're going on to 116 next week. Next week, I got Dr. Rachel Shelley, who is the past Florida State Teacher of the Year. She actually used my material in developing her school, particularly my book, Closing the Attitude Gap. And I went there and spoke to her staff and students. So she's going to be with me next week. So tune in at 10:55, Dr. Rachel Shelley from Sarasota, Florida. My crew every Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, Sean Hurt. Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston and Tammy Taylor, Principal Taylor at 10:30. Facebook Live for all of these. Unlock the Middle, my man Josh Tovar and Dean Packard at 7 on Sunday nights. These are all Eastern time. And then Village Leadership Group with Dr. Roz Gaskins and Coach Williams, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6. That's my crew. Make sure you get my books, y'all. I'm not going to put them on the screen. You know what they are. The Assistant Principal 50, the Aspiring Principal 50 is my school, a better school, because I lead it. The Equity and Social Justice Education 50. They're all on Amazon, or you can go to principalkafele.com. I told you I got some big ones coming up. July 12 and 13, I'm going to be in Charlotte, School Leadership Institute. We're going to be in person. We did it virtually for the past 2 years. We back live, man. We got a nice big room to space y'all out. So if you didn't register yet, go to principalkafele.com, scroll down, click the link, register, and I'll see you in Charlotte on the 12th and 13th next week. Then I'll be at NAESP, National Association of Elementary School Principals, on Sunday. 2 sessions, 8 and 9:30. And then I'll be at, what I tell y'all earlier, I'll be somewhere, SREB, Southern Regional Educational Conference. That's Making Schools Work Conference. I'm the closing keynoter on next Thursday, right? But I'm also doing a deep dive session on equity, right? So go to my page, scroll down, register, join me at all 3 of those occasions. Now I got some other ones in there too, but those are for PD and schools and districts. Y'all ain't coming in those, right? So register, and hopefully I'll see you. And then I'll be back right here, sitting right here next weekend with Dr. Rachel Shelley. Make sure that you subscribe to the Virtual AP Leadership Academy YouTube channel so you can get all 115 of these videos. Make sure you like and follow my Virtual AP Leadership Academy Facebook page, because the commentary that I write on Sunday mornings, you can only see it there. I don't post it anywhere else. I'm on like number 72 or 73 or something like that. So make sure that you subscribe to that Facebook page. And then lastly, as I always say, your diet, your exercise, and your COVID precautions. No, the pandemic is not over. All right. It is not over. Somebody, you know, my father-in-law has been sick for quite a few years, but he's been COVID free. Somebody brought that thing into the house, man. See, COVID precautions, right? So you got to take the precautions, folks. I know you don't want to rock that mask, but just rock it anyway. Right? When you're not around a bunch of people, pull it down. That's what I do. But when I'm on that airplane or crowded spaces, I rock that mask, man. Right? So take care of yourself. I'm going to do 3 miles today. Make sure you get your mileage in, and make sure you're eating right. When you see that donut, it's looking good, all that sugar, man, but leave it alone, man. When you seeing that Snickers bar, when you go at the supermarket, leave it there. Right? Get something healthy, man. How you going? Listen, I know it's time to go. Listen. How you going to lead and you didn't take care of your temple. How you gonna do it? You can't do it. So eat right, live right, and don't forget the pandemic is here. I forgot to tell y'all, man, we are in the middle of the Black Educators Rock Conference, like as we speak, right? Black Educators Rock. So go to blackeducatorsrock.org or go to my Facebook page and look at the flyer. You'll see the information. I'll be speaking tomorrow morning at 11:45, but I'm getting ready to jump back on now, right? So my man, Dr. Chika Akua, is speaking right now. And so that's the Black Educators Rock. That's we're doing that for 2 days. I'm on the board for 2 days. Shift on over there right now, as I know some of you probably did because I saw you this morning because we started at 9:30 this morning. Other than that, y'all have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back. 1, 2, 3. Bam. I see you next Saturday at 10:55. Y'all